What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing okay. Today I kind of wanted to just chat a bit about the Launchpad Pro and I guess, just song ideas and structures and I guess tips and tricks that I apply whenever I'm making music to basically just, you get a loop kind of going, where do you go from there kind of thing. It's always a little difficult. I'm sure we're all sitting on just hard drives full of 16 bar loops, 8 bar loops that can potentially become songs, but might take a little bit of time. But before we get in, I'm just going to kind of let some people pour in, see how we're doing, see if everyone's doing all right. If I'm looking over here to the side, it's just because I got the chat over here on my laptop to see what's going on. But yeah, we doing all right. Yeah, so far so good. A little bit about the setup. If I look over here, basically what we got going on is the Launchpad Pro MIDI out is going into this little drum machine here. Well, I guess it's a modular system with a squid sample. I've been using this more as my main drum machine just because, I don't know, I like the quality of it. I like to use the MPC60 a lot, so this is like, gets kind of close to it with the bit reduction stuff. From there, we also got the peak going on. So MIDI output 2 is going into the peak. That's going to be our main synth for chords and polyphony. And then the MIDI out, or the through out of that, is going over into this DB01 bass line. And I'm just using this in keyboard mode. Right, so if I turn that up a little. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to sequence it from here, and I can get longer notes a bit easier, because when I try to do on the sequencer here, it's a little bit more staccato than I would like. So if I want to hold down a bass note, it's a lot easier to just program it into this sequencer as opposed to programming it in on that sequencer. But honestly, the setup right there is super simple. Like, that's very very basic. It's just like 2 synths, a drum machine, and it's more than you would actually need. So it's great. I like this setup a lot. And yeah, so I kind of built this little track here that we were listening to a second ago. Here, I'll play it again. And let's unmute some stuff. And then this is I guess a quick rundown of what we got going on here. Let me grab my headphone volume a little bit. So a quick little rundown is basically across the bottom here, these are our track mutes, right? These 2 or 4, I guess I should say. You got a 4-track sequencer built into here, but if I hit the mute button, I'm now in track select mode. So this is our bass line. I set it to 16 steps and it's purple, MIDI track 2. Green is peak, which is set to 32 steps. And then this is set to drum mode, and that's going to be controlling all these drums here. So if I stop this, you might be able to see some of the LEDs firing off over here. So I just have MIDI out of here into the Mutant Brain's turning MIDI to CV. But yeah, so here's a little song idea. Let me add the kick drum again. Right, very basic, very simple, easy peasy. So if we have this, pretty cool, but how can we take this a bit further outside of just this loop? One thing I like to do is, I make house music. That's kind of my thing. If we were to just focus in on just the bass line and the drums, this is pretty dope. If I go to our pattern view here, this is going to be track 1's 8 patterns, track 2's 8 patterns, track 3's 8 patterns, track 4's 8 patterns. We can ignore track 4 for now because we're only using these 3 tracks. So if I duplicate this drum pattern from here to here, let's add a bit of variation. And with the variation that I want to add, now that it's launched, I can go to steps and maybe add some probability. So at the very end, not only do I want to add some more kick drums, I'm going to hold this step and add some kick drums. Holding that step, I can change its probability from 12.5% to 100% of happening. So immediately, it already kind of creates a new, more interesting beat. Right? Sometimes it hits all of them. Sometimes it doesn't. Let's add a little bit of velocity. Maybe a little more just in case it does hit. Oh, come on, probability. Roll the dice, roll the dice. Oh, if this was poker, I'd probably win. Actually, you don't need luck in poker, do you? So, cool, there's a little bit of variation. Simple pattern change and pattern setup. But what's cool here is not only can we do that, I can then duplicate that again. And essentially what I'm trying to get at is utilizing rhythm and percussion and drums, to me, is so much more powerful for driving a song forward, and even subconsciously in more of a I don't even know how to explain it. It's like you can speed up a song, slow down a song, give it more energy, take energy away, even though the tempo is staying 100% the same. So utilizing percussion and rhythm, I prefer that as opposed to just throwing more sounds at the song, because the percussion and rhythm stuff doesn't necessarily, I mean, you can tune your drums, but they don't take up the same amount of space frequency wise. I mean, they can. It's all subjective, right? So they don't. To me, they don't take up the main frequency ranges of, synthesizer stuff. So instead of having 2 chord lines going and then let's throw another chord line in there to keep the song moving and then throw a second bass line or something like that, it's so much better to just be like, oh, let's just maybe change up the hi-hat pattern instead, or apply a new kick drum, or change the kick drum pattern completely. So that's kind of what I'm doing here and trying to get at, which is now that we have this drum pattern, turn the bass up a little. Right, so cool. Let's go to our drums again. Let's take our kicks out. We'll leave those last ones here that have the probability, but let's add a clap. I'm gonna add another clap here and then just give a little bit of velocity. Maybe even less. Oh wait, the velocity is not gonna apply here because this is going to the CV output. So I'll just go ahead and clear that clap out of there. So sweet, we got this pattern, that pattern. And what's cool here, a lot of these things can be applied to any DAW, other sequencers as well. Of course, I'm going to be using the Launchpad Pro, and one thing I like about it are the pattern sets across the bottom. So these down here, this whole section here, this allows me to, at the single press of a button, launch a bunch of different clips. So let's say I want, that is our intro. Actually, you know what? I don't want nothing playing for our peak track, which is track 3. So press this, this is now launched, right? So then I can say, when I press this, keep that down here, let's launch that one and launch that one. So it's almost like scene launching, but it's just for pattern. So now that that's playing, let's go ahead and do this. So now we have the probability on here, but see, that doesn't change up enough. Let's change it up even more. We'll add a couple other hi-hats in there. Maybe those. Cool, so now let's make the breakdown on here, the third one, and that'll be this one with no kick and a clap. Bring in our synth line and leave our bass line going. Actually, let's take the bass line out. Let's see what that sounds like. So now I'll launch this. Wait, I don't remember where I put my synth line. Hold up. Did I delete it? Oh my god. Oh, I muted it. Haha. Classic mute mistake. So there's our breakdown. And then I want this to go here. So now that I'm here, you can see that our pattern set turned off, which is great. So I'm gonna go back and edit this, and this is gonna be the main, like, crazy moment, I guess, the peak part, or the drop, if you will. So for sure I want my kicks. Let's go ahead and see this. I want my kicks there. And I only have an open hat there, and there, but I want my open hats everywhere. These are taken up by closed hats. You can add multiple notes to the same step, but because it's closed and open, I want my open hats to be more prominent than the closed ones. Maybe I can just add a couple closed ones here. take those out, all open hat, and then we'll add a couple little closed hats there, and we'll move that one there. So let's hear this. Cool, sweet. So if we go back to patterns, we have the intro, this new little weird probability, the breakdown, and then on this one, I want to play the bass line, our synth line, and the new massive drum breakdown. So now I can do a little build up on peak. And that right there is like such an easy way to kind of start driving stuff forward. Like play with taking out the clap once in a while, because that's going to create a lot of tension. Us as humans, we love pattern recognition. And that's kind of the beauty of, at least I think, of house music and techno and stuff like that is, it's repetitive, and it can be repetitive. And in some cases, that's the point and that's the intention of the song. But at the same time, we recognize a pattern, and as soon as we do a little change up here and there, maybe every 2 bars, every 4 bars, sometimes every 16 bars, it's something that grabs our subconscious and re-engages the listener into listening to the song more and more, and subconsciously drives people to, you know, avidly listen to the music without even realizing it. So again, like this main part here, if we duplicate this down here, the drums, right? So now if we go back to the drums, I'm going to take the clap out. See how that feels? It's just, it irks you a little bit. It makes you want to go a little further. And then again, we already have the other pattern without the clap. So then maybe some other things that we can try are different synth notes. Another thing I like to do is, in the name of simplicity, I guess you can call it, is try to keep the tones and the sounds in a sense similar to themselves. So instead of going and grabbing another synth and doing another lead line, I'll utilize the same pattern and the same synth sound. And since peak is 8, here, check this out. So I'm going to duplicate peak's pattern to here, pattern 2. If I go to pattern 2, oh, wrong track. You can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 notes, but peak is an 8 voice synthesizer, which means I have up to 8 notes of polyphony, and Launchpad Pro also has up to 8 notes of polyphony per track. So we have this new pattern. If I go up an octave, I can play notes on top of this. Let's say, so what's cool here is I've just added a new sound without having to add another piece of hardware or anything like that, and it's relatable. The sound is still similar to what's already been in the song, but again, it's breaking that pattern and just adding a little bit of differentness to it that's enough to kind of re-engage the listener. Let's see. I'm gonna take a second to look at the chat and see what's going on, just because it's all the way over here and I'm talking to you, of course. So how are we doing? Saludos. That's Ricky. Yeah, Enrique from Novation. What's up? How's everyone doing? Cool. Can we do the no, so yeah, I guess a quick, are these saved? Yeah, this will be saved. We'll have this we're gonna save this and upload it onto the YouTube permanently, so you can go back and watch this later for sure. And sweet, awesome. Everyone just saying what's up. I'm happy you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying healthy. And yeah, it's a little bit of a gloomy, rainy day here in LA, but it's not too bad. It's better than it being sunny and not being able to go outside. But yeah, Launchpad Pro, song ideas, that's kind of what we're talking about here. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I'm going to try and get to them for sure. And Yeah, or if you have any other questions as well for tech support, I think we're almost 24-hour tech support right now, so they're happily ready waiting for your call. But yeah, let's jam out a little bit more. Another thing you can try and apply is baseline tricks. On here, on the Launchpad Pro, you have Mutation, which is cool. So again, we'll go to Patterns. I'm going to duplicate our baseline pattern to the second one, launch the second one. If I go to Pattern Settings, I'm going to just set it to 8 steps. And we'll go to this pattern and go back to our main synth line. So we just have if I mute our drums and look at our bass line here, I'm going to apply some mutation. What mutation is going to do is it's going to mutate the note, but not the gate length or not the probability. It's just going to mutate the pitch or the note that it's playing. So holding down a step, I can select how random is it going to be. Maybe do to the last one as well. Let's go up an octave and add another note. Nah. Nah. I don't like that. Let's see. That's kind of cool. Mutate that one as well. And let's apply some swing. We're only at 50%. 60's cool. Bring our drums back in. Here's another part of the song. This is another section. So what's cool here is I can see what's playing. And I can, oh well, this is muted, right? Our track here, the synth for peak. So I can say here, let's play this, and no synth. And now let's jump back to our original breakdown. And then back forward. Yo, this song's kind of tight. Maybe I'll finish this later. And then we'll go here, see what that's playing. I'm going to duplicate that pattern set to here. And I'm actually going to apply this pattern for our drums instead and still leave the synth line. Actually, let's leave the new synth line. Let's see what this creates. So build it up a bit and then launch it. Whoa, we are in uncharted territories, my friends. And I'm not sure if I like it. Yep, don't like it. Abort. Go back to the groove. What was this one playing? I don't want the synth line, but I want that little drum breakdown. So we'll do this. Yeah, no clap. There it is. Adds that tension. We'll say here, let's duplicate that here, and then we'll play the one with the clap but no kick to bring us all back. And then back to the original breakdown. And then back into everything. Easy, super easy peasy. Just, you know, I am very guilty of this. Is I just throw gear and throw sounds at the problem, and the problem in my head is how do I, you know, I have this loop. How do I get here and how do I get out of it? So, kind of in a sense, mentally limiting yourself to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to add any more sounds. What can I do with the sounds that I have at hand? Ultimately, kind of come up with ways of being a bit more creative, right? I feel like creativity lives in that, in the complication of things. It's problem solving. And that's stuff that, us as humans love enjoying is, pattern recognition, problem solving, novelty. There's all these little things that kind of just release these, good feelings. And stuff like this is really fun because it's almost like I like to think of making music as like a Rubik's Cube that just comes out with beats. So applying all these weird little tinkering things where you're like, well, what if I moved this over here and did that and did this and maybe made a new drum pattern but with the same drum sounds, adds a lot of different elements. And these are all little tips and tricks, I guess you can say, that I apply to myself that kind of re-inspire me to try and finish a song or finish a loop or potentially take a loop to a whole new level or possibly start a whole new song. For example, this pattern, to me, in a way, almost sounds different from same element, same sounds, same bass, same synths, all that stuff, but they have two different vibes, right? This one's a little more straightforward, dancey. This one's a little more atmospheric. So just having those like two ideas there, that's your A side, or your A part, and then your B part, and then you just got to build the little breakdown, which is a part without a kick, and filter stuff and perform the filters, and boom, you got a track. It's pretty simple. And then utilizing things like just building your song from left to right is kind of nice, because then you're like, cool, if I start here, what happens next? Well, after this, I want to bring in some more drum sounds. After that, I want to kind of introduce the bass sound, but what can I do that's dramatic to introduce the bass sound? Besides just bringing in the bass, let's take out the kick, because the kick is the driving force and the heartbeat to the song. So that will then, boom, the listener says, what just happened? Oh, I hear a new element. It's the bass sound. And then, bam, you crack them over the head with this thing and the crowd goes wild. So little tips and tricks that I hope will help you finish music, because I just want to hear what you're making, because of course everyone makes awesome dope stuff, which then in turn just makes me want to make super cool dope stuff, and in turn makes Novation want to make super dope products. So yeah, let's check out the chat before I roll out of here. How's everyone doing? Let's see. Yeah, cool. Not too much. What's up, Focus, right? Brother from another mother. Anyone know what the thing on the top right shelf is? Oh, that's the ADS7 by AVP. It's a Russian analog drum machine. But cool. All right, sweet. Well, I hope you found this helpful. This will be uploaded later, so feel free to check it out. But until then, yeah, we'll catch you guys soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go make some music. Let's just kind of jam out for a little bit. All right, peace. Peace.